Okay, Sarah, here's a really interesting question. I'm going to read it. It says, I've just been through a significant health challenge, and thankfully I'm on the other side of that now. Now I'm in a period of re-examination of pretty much everything in my life, almost like I have a second chance at life and I'm giving myself permission to think about what I want. The thing is, this feels overwhelming and I'm not sure where to start.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so health challenge. First of all, I'm so happy that you got through that and that you're okay and that you do have the second chance. So wishing you so well on that, writer of this question. And really like excited for you that you have this gift to look at what you want next. I was caught on the word overwhelm. That it can be overwhelming. And I wonder sometimes if the brain gives us overwhelm to slow us down a bit. If you've just been through a really intense situation, maybe there's a little bit of overwhelm to slow you down. Like, you know how planes have drag to slow them down? It's like, whoa, I don't know what you're going to do now with this second chance of life, but it's like, could be terrifying. So can we slow down a bit? So maybe the place is just to be with the overwhelm a bit and ask what feels overwhelming about this. And you can also ask kind of things like, what feels exciting about it? What feels scary? What feels thrilling? What feels possible? And just see if you can get some, answers one at a time on these questions. And I kind of feel like what could be fun and a place to start, besides just really seeing like what part of you feels overwhelmed. So is this a head overwhelm, lots of thoughts? Is it a heart overwhelm, lots of feelings? Or is it a body overwhelm, which is like stomach, anxiety, all the body responses? And see if you can approach it from somewhere different. So if it's like, oh, the overwhelm is emotional, there's just so many emotions, like, okay, well, when was another time when I had a chance to do something differently? How did I do that then? And maybe go through some what ifs. What if I sold my house and moved to Paris? What if I went back to school? What if I just sat in a garden and breathed in and out for, I don't know, a month? Like just all the what ifs, and see what comes up in those three places. And what maybe you're getting goosebumps. Like maybe when I say move to Paris, you get goosebumps. So maybe it's not that you want to move to Paris, but maybe you want some novelty or adventure or culture, or, so then you can say to yourself, how can I start getting a little taste? Like, how can I microdose this thing and experiment with it? So again, it always comes back to curiosity, doesn't it? Like being in the moment with all the things and getting curious, right? Like,
and something like this, like it's like a rupture, kind of like, the pandemic, right? It's like the old rules changed and then you were in kind of in between, and now what's next? And
right.
So having had sort of a really nasty health challenge a few years ago when my Meniere's disease was first being diagnosed, and I went through like acute periods of vertigo and like lying on the bathroom floor throwing up for a couple of hours, and I couldn't look at screens without feeling queasy. It was really like almost like a clarifying experience to me, because I lay there on the floor and I thought, first of all, I have to figure out a way to get through this. And also when I am able to like look at a screen or read or do the things I want to do again, how do I want to spend that time? Because there's no way I'm going to do it, like write press releases for a corporation or something. Like that's not what I'm called to do. It's certain kinds of nonfiction writing, and eventually it's like writing a novel. So I can't count on the fact that I'm going to have endless days when I don't feel queasy. So how do I want to use the time when I'm feeling great? And I think so many people who haven't had a health challenge live with the illusion that we all have endless time, and we don't. Yeah. So it actually is a little bit of a gift, a weird gift that you did not sign up for and you didn't appreciate getting in the mail. But given that it showed up in your life, you can say, I'm going to process this in a way where I really can zero in on the things and the people who matter most to me and choose that that's how I'm going to invest my energy. So that would be what I would say to this person. And, so like you, so celebrating their improved health and truly the gift of second chances.
And also not to be hard on themselves. Like I remember early on in COVID, I was sick and I had to like stay in my room for like 3 weeks because my symptoms weren't going away. So there was no test. I don't know if I had COVID or not, but I couldn't leave my room. And I remember thinking, I will never, ever take a walk for granted again. I'll never take a hug for granted again. And I do sometimes because I'm human. And I think we forget. So when in those heightened moments, we think I'm learning a lesson that will stay with me and be life-changing. And I think it's human sometimes to forget the lesson and then come back to it. So just a little bit of a acknowledgement that there can be that feeling of I need to change my life because I have this second chance, but also that there will always be forces to pull you back. And I think 1 step forward, 3 steps back, like it's not linear, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And not to beat yourself up if, like me, sometimes you forget the lesson, right? Like,
and one of the best things about being human is the fact that we can think about thinking and talk about thinking, right? And we can sort of like zoom in and zoom out over different time periods and just challenge ourselves to look at life through different lenses. Like, it's fascinating. I mean, maybe goldfish can do this and we don't know. Maybe that's why they look so studious when they're floating around in their fish bowls. But
they do look studious.
But given that we know that we have the kind of brains that can do this, let's use our brains for good so that we can imagine things that will make our lives better and not more stressful or more guilt-ridden or more overwhelmed, right?
Yeah. And just, I love that also to notice the impact of the thought just on the body. So what is actually happening and what would feel good to me to do just right now? Like, you don't have to have the whole thing mapped out, but just right now in this moment, it feels so good to be talking to you.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I know that we're going to be talking forever and ever, but in this moment, it feels like the next right thing to do. And so just to focus on following kind of, again, I'm going to reference, there was a podcast I listened to with David Pearl, the Street Wisdom founder from the UK, and he interviewed a woman named Pippa Evans, who's a comedian and an improver, and she was saying, follow your obvious. So the idea was, in her class, she would say to people, I say tomato, what do you think of? So one person would think of tomato sauce, another one would think of the beautiful tomatoes growing on their back deck, and on and on. And she said, they're all right. There's nothing wrong, but it's yours. So trust it and follow it. And I think there's something in that for this person to just follow what kind of the first impulse and see. You don't have to stay with it. Just see what's there, and you can always turn around and follow the next one.
Yeah. And maybe write little notes to yourself or something so that you can sort of, like, as you're doing all this brilliant thinking and reimagining, you can pick up on that thread. I sometimes write notes to myself and I'll find them a year later or 3 years later, and I'll realize, like, I thought I just had that idea for the first time yesterday. And actually this has been percolating in my brain for a long time. That could be fascinating.
That is really interesting. Sometimes I see things and go, who wrote that?
Like, wait, it's in my handwriting.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know that now. Yeah. Anyway, so good luck to you, person who wrote, and thank you for writing. And again, if people have advice or thoughts or want to share an experience that's similar, we'd love to hear it.